Hello, everyone, and welcome to A Talk of Art. I'm your host, Catherine Nightingale. My today's guest is not a stranger to writing, especially fantasy writing. Born in Ireland, a country of magic, ancient history, and amazing nature, she has always had an ambition of becoming a writer. Being a very popular and acknowledged fantasy and romance author, having published a fantasy trilogy called A Traitor and waiting for her new book to be released, Kate Callaghan is here today to talk about her life as a writer and share some piece of advice. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Kate Callaghan. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, nice to
How
hear
are
you again and
you?
see you again. I'm fine, thank you. And how are you today?
I'm good.
Yeah, I can see it from the background, right? The weather is fabulous.
I know. It was actually it was lashing rain about 5 minutes ago. That is just for you. That just appeared.
Okay, so I was here on purpose, right? Just to bring you
100%.
some good weather,
Yeah.
not raining
We need
cats and dogs, right?
I know. Sure, it's Ireland, like all we get, like the weather is just unpredictable. If it's not raining, it's doing something else. So oh
Okay, so I'm glad I managed to do something good beforehand.
yeah.
That's perfect. Okay, so how's Ireland in general? Is everything okay? How's it going?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, we're ticking along. Small island in the middle of nowhere. We just like everything's good. Yeah. We're very boring.
But the landscapes are just perfect, I suppose, right?
Oh yeah. We make up for it in greenery. We just rent the greenery. We're just like little hobbits. We just live in the random areas. The rest is just green.
Yeah, like Bilbo Bagginses, right?
Exactly. It's exactly what we are. We're just hobbits in the Shire. We just live here.
Okay,
Uh,
yeah, I can also see that you have these little Funko Pops figures. You are a fan of them, right? At the background.
Oh yeah, I do. I love them. They're just so cute because like you get to like bring your favorite things.
Yeah, just I'm a fan of films. I'm a huge fan of films for as long as I can remember, right? And I have like 16 of them, like including
Oh,
Harry Potter, Pirates of the Caribbean, Alice in Wonderland, all of
oh
these
yeah.
things, right?
Oh, I love
Yeah.
Alice in Wonderland. It's so hard to find. It's so hard to find the ones that you're looking for. I always
Yeah.
like whenever I like see them randomly, I'm always like, okay, I need to get it because I will not find it again.
Yeah, they are pretty rare in stock, right? You have to hunt for
Oh,
them actually.
yeah, always. And then if you find the one you're looking for, it's always on like eBay for like so much
Yeah,
money, and you're like,
exactly. And
why?
it's like daylight robbery, right?
Oh, outrageous. Because there's one, I love the film Coraline,
Yeah.
and
I've learned it from your website, right? It's
yeah, I love
perfect.
it. Yeah, but it's like so. I tried to find one of her, and the cheapest one I could find was like 50 quid. I was like,
Oh
I
my
can't just.
God.
I was like, I can't justify it. I can't. But it's like little ways to like have your favorite things around you in like a cute little way.
Yeah, so they set a certain tune mood, right? While
Yeah,
working. Yeah,
yeah, anything to brighten the day. That way. Sometimes you just
exactly. To light up your mood a little bit.
oh, absolutely. I think we could all use that in the world. We all need a bit of laughter, bit of silliness.
Okay, yeah, speaking of Ireland, the question that I really like to ask my guests, because I
Mm,
somehow can see how they respond, and I'm really excited to see their reaction. So, Ireland is like a place that has always like stuck with you, right? Because it's your
mm,
birthplace, and you have been through so many moments that cannot be experienced twice, right?
yeah.
So, what place does Ireland own in your heart in general?
Oh.
And how does it influence you as a person, as a writer in general?
Oh, I love that question. That's so. I've never really thought about it. I think for me, I've always been very much an introvert. That like I think I
That's
live
hard to
the fa-
believe, actually.
such a huge introvert. Oh my God. I'm like, it's like, and the great thing about where being in Ireland is that you're never far from a forest and you're never far from
Hmm.
a sea.
Yeah.
Like unless you live in the Midlands, like
Hmm.
you're never, and even if you live in the Midlands, you're still going to be surrounded by trees, surrounded by nature. And I think that's like very important to me. Like I always need to be around nature near it. And
Nature person, right?
a huge nature person. Yeah. So I think that's why Ireland's probably like will always be my home. I probably couldn't see myself living anywhere else is because it's like the perfect place for me because it's like it's it's small and like you're never far from anything and yeah, it is. It's like a hobbit hole. You can't go wrong. And I have a terrible sense of direction. So if I lived anywhere bigger, I'd be lost. I'd be
Okay, so you might get yourself lost.
yeah.
Finally, right?
I go honest. You can't go wrong in Ireland, honestly. If you drive 4 hours one way or 8 hours another way, you'll fall off. So you can't.
You end up somewhere in, I don't know, like Scotland, right?
Absolutely, you'll go straight into the sea. So you can't go wrong.
Okay, that's funny, actually. A funny attitude towards Ireland, right?
I know, but it's a very like I think anyone who even comes here like says like it's a very like grounding place just because there is so much nature, there's so much like history and everything. Like you can't go far without seeing like a beautiful church or like a beautiful landscape or beautiful buildings. So it's
Yeah,
always
or castle
very
remnants.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's like it's a magical place to kind of be. So and I think I'm a fantasy writer, so I think that plays a lot into it is that there's always something to inspire, always something to inspire. So yeah.
Okay, and I suppose that in your Hellish series, is that the correct name of the trilogy?
Yeah,
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 so
Hellish Reign.
the first one I probably like it the most because it's
Mm,
quite I do like reading very first stories, not like sequels and the third
mm,
part. They are also great, but I like to see how the writer sets the tone and how does the writer develop his skills, right?
mm.
Okay, so I managed to catch that you have blended together two different mythologies, right? Celtic and Greek mythology, right?
Mm.
There
I
are
kind of
centaurs, right? And hobbits, walking around the place, and that made me smile actually. So, where does this idea come from? Like blending two completely different mythologies?
I think well like growing up in Ireland like it's very like religious so like that I grew up going to church so I was always kind of very questioning of everything but I loved researching about like different religions different myths different and how no matter where you are in the world they all overlap in some way or another so in fantasy I always find that like everything's kind of split apart whereas like I kind of wanted to create something that kind of brings everything together I wanted kind of every bad guy and every different myth to kind of be together like
Yeah.
in their own as if they all live together in one
Hmm.
realm um because like that I think like that thing like no matter how we're all different we still all live on the same planet so I kind of wanted everything to be together and have their own conflicts and everything so yeah that was my main thing is that I didn't want it to be purely like about like Celtic, you know, because I'm from Ireland, or like purely about like Greek mythology, or
Yeah.
purely about whatever. I wanted everything to be together.
Hmm.
Because even when you like research one myth, you find that like if you go back far enough, there is a bit of it overlaps with Greek mythology, it overlaps with even like Japanese mythology. Even like every story comes from everywhere if you go far enough back. So I kind of like the idea of everything coming together.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it actually has enriched the story so much, so many
Mm,
different characters around, and you don't get yourself bored, right?
I
While
know.
flipping the
Yeah,
pages. Yeah. You might get a
exactly.
little bit confused with all the names and
Yeah.
races, but in general, it feels
There's a lot.
really, really nice. Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad. But yeah, no, it is. It is. it is a big world to kind of step into from the first one. But I think because it's like it's going to be a universe in itself, there's still going to be more stories added to it. I feel like when it all comes together, no matter what you pick up first, it'll all be more like a world you could live in, more than like just a standalone story, which I've always wanted to create. I've always wanted to create a universe rather than just get to see a fraction of a world. I kind of love the big picture, so I really wanted to do that. So yeah.
Yeah, I see. Okay, and one more question on this story. So you introduced also the Irish mythology and ancient history to these series. Was it done on purpose so that many people around the world might enjoy themselves reading Irish history, like learning something new on this country and maybe just coming to visit it one day and, I don't know, like promote it around the world or something?
I don't it was never intentional, honestly. I never kind of think to put in stuff to influence others. I kind of just write it how I write it, and let people pick up what they want. I mean, if people want to visit here, that's absolutely fantastic. But it would never be my intention to like educate people. I know that it would never be my first and foremost. I know some authors do like an amazing job of like really like embodying their culture in their books, and like they really see an all-encompassing thing. Whereas for me, I kind of want people to feel they can take whatever bits they want from it and learn what they want, instead of it just being like a full education, if that makes sense. Yeah, but no, I hope people pick up little bits and enjoy it, and yeah, if they learn some things, that's great along the way. But
like an itinerary, what places should you use around, should you visit around Ireland, right? The day you come, why not?
Yeah, because it's a realm, because like it doesn't even take place in Ireland. Like it takes place in like its own realm completely.
Yeah, so, but some places do remind a little bit of some Irish spots, right?
Yeah, like it would kind of be like the kind of just even like the forestry and everything. That would definitely be an embodiment of those things. But yeah, no, but it's definitely but I would never sell it as an Irish story. Even if I'm an Irish author, I'd be like, it's a whole other thing, it's a whole other world, it's a whole other being. Even if the map kind of looks like Ireland, but which was unintentional, but it's just, yeah, but I wouldn't want because I wouldn't want as well to sell it as like an Irish story and then people be like, oh, like I thought there'd be more like Celtic stuff in it than there is. So I'd be like, no, you can read it as whatever you want to read it as, and take what bits you want.
Yeah, and you have this classic Irish surname, a very beautiful one, Callaghan, right? So I have come across this surname a lot.
Oh yeah. It's you can have O Callaghan and you can have Callaghan, or you can have the American version where they get rid of the G. So it's like very different versions.
So it's like something like son of Callaghan or daughter of Callaghan, right? Is that correct?
Oh, do you know what? I don't know. All I know is that it came from like Cork, and then during the famine we dropped the out. So like that's all I know about. That's all, like, and like that surnames in Ireland have like a sigil. So like that
there were a lot of clans around, right? Like in Scotland.
Yeah. So our sigil for Callaghan is like a wolf on a mountain. So like that's kind of cool. So that's all I know. Anything else I'd be lying.
So speaking of your surname, could you share a little bit on your like childhood background, your family maybe?
Yeah, so like that I was born and raised in Ireland, like that. I come from like, two parents and I have one brother, and yeah, no, it was very ordinary childhood, to be honest. Like that, I was very clumsy. I climbed a lot of trees, fell out of a lot of more. Like that, I grew up like a kind of on the outskirts of kind of Dublin, and like with into the countryside. So like that, grew up like around a lot of trees and like that, rivers and stuff like that. So like I was always kind of very influenced by nature. I loved, and then as I got older, we moved into the city. But like that, I think growing up in the countryside kind of had a huge impact on me. Like, and I think it is what inspired me most to like write fantasy as well. Like, because I just love there's magic in nature, no matter like where you are, what you are. It's like I always find that there's magic in nature. So
yeah, nature is magical itself. Actually, you don't even need to read some fantasy stories or watch films. You can just go outside, enjoy the wild, and spot some unusual locations that you have never been to before, right? Maybe like walking past it
Absolutely.
one day, next day you go, oh my gosh, I don't remember coming across this place.
I
Right.
know. Yeah, exactly. And nature's ever changing as well. So like that you get to see it in every season. Yeah, no, it's always like probably my favorite part of growing up was probably like that in the countryside and stuff. So, but yeah,
What
no,
about
other than that,
Dublin?
very
What's your attitude towards
Dublin is like
Dublin?
it's busy. It's probably like
Hustle
as
and
busy as
bustle,
Ireland.
right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but it's a it's a good place to be. Like everyone's nice and like it's a very how do you say, it's like a very close, like you can't go far without knowing somebody who knows somebody who knows you. So it's like it's very like close knit and like even though like it's a big city, it's still very small. It
Mm-hmm.
sounds like it sounds so weird, but like when you live here, it feels very small, even though like everyone's like, oh, it has a population of a couple million, but it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
feel that way when you're in it. But yeah, but like that, I love living in Dublin, but I am definitely more of like a countryside person because like that I'm very introverted, so like that I'm like that I work from home, so like that I'm not out in it a lot, but it's a great place to visit, it's a great place to be, it's a great place to live, so like I don't really have any complaints really. Maybe if I was out of it more I probably would.
And does your family support your like ambition to write and to continue with writing your novels?
Absolutely, yeah. They were like my biggest supporters. They were always very supportive. Because like that, I've been writing stories since like as long as I can remember. Like I've always been tinkering away at things. Always been obsessed with films or books. So it was always kind of in the cards. Like even when I was like, I think I was like 15 or 16, I was always like, no matter what job I do, I will always write on the side. No matter what I'm doing, I will always be writing. So whether I ever publish anything, I don't know. But at that stage, I was always like, I always want to be writing. I always want to be creating something. So, but they were always very supportive, and like I think they never had any doubt. To be honest, they probably had less doubt than I did about what I was doing. So, always very supportive. Like always very like
They had
keep
more
yourself
faith,
grounded.
right, in you.
They did, yeah, and they still do. They're like, you're doing it. Keep going, So it is great. It is great to have. I know a lot of people don't have that, which makes me very sad. But like, I think
Yeah.
the great thing, though about writing and being an author as well is that there's also a great community. That if you don't have that support from friends or family or anything like that, then there's such a massive community out there when you find it that like they really support you and egg you on, which is great as well. But yeah, no, always supportive. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really perfect when you have like friends amongst your family relatives, right?
Yeah, it is. It's like you need a good balance. You need a good balance of everyone, and like that, it's great to have, and it's great to have support from people who also do similar things to what you do, because then they understand everything that goes into it and everything behind it, and that it's a beast in itself. Like it's a whole other thing. So yeah, but no, it's great to have support. Like I wouldn't change them. I wouldn't swap them out if I could.
So have you ever had a mentor throughout your like education, so to say? And was this the very person who influenced you?
I didn't really have any mentors. I don't like when I was in school. Like I wasn't the best at English. To be honest, I think my English teacher would be like, "You wrote a book." Um, so yeah, I wasn't the best. Like, I mean, I was an okay student, but like, I was never like academic. I was never. I think a lot of people think to be a writer, you have to be like, getting straight A's in English and like doing. No, didn't do that. Didn't go to college because I just very stubborn. Was very like, I want to be a writer. I don't need to. I just want to do my thing. I think my biggest mentors were like that reading other books, like watching films. Like even if I didn't know the names of authors, or I like, because I never really cared. Like, it sounds funny, but like I never really cared about the name of the author or the name of the director or anything like that. It was just the creating, like
Hmm.
being in awe that somebody could create these things. That was always my biggest
The outcome, right?
inspiration. Yeah, it was always like, wow, this can be created. Like it was never about it was never about aspiring to be someone, or it was always just being like, this can be created, then I want to do this. That was always my biggest inspiration, whether it's books or movies or music or anything. It's always been like, I want to do it.
Yeah, speaking of books, so you mentioned not only Coraline, right, in one
Mhm.
of the interviews, but also Jane Eyre. So,
Yeah.
what's so special about Jane Eyre? I also like this book, but I would like to hear it from you because I found Clara in the Hellish series to be quite a little bit similar with Jane Eyre, because she also tries to find her way in this difficult world, challenging world, like winning independence, right? That's what Jane Eyre wanted to do, like to stand out from the posh Victorian society, right? So does this classical story somehow influence Clara, and what place does it have in your heart, actually?
It's actually like my favorite. It's my favorite like contemporary book, absolutely. Like I read it when I was younger, and then I kind of read it as I was older, and my perception changed of it and everything. Because like when I first read it, I was like, oh, this is kind of like a romance. But then as I got older, I was like, no, this is very much like, no matter what happened to her, she actually was like, no, she was like, she could have stayed at school and she could have been a teacher, but then she was like, no, I want to go out, I want to learn, I want to experience the world. Like, and I mean, in those days, that was like, I mean, for a woman to do that is like huge. I mean,
Yeah.
like, and she could have like, and even when she found out about Mr. Rochester's, the wife, she could
Past,
have,
yeah, like
yeah,
complicated
she
past.
could have stayed, but she didn't. She was like, I'm out of here, like, and I love her moral integrity and how she just doesn't compromise and she just does what she wants. And I find that very empowering, especially from like a book written back then. You're like, wow, this is incredible. So I think it always it's definitely like she was like so strong in her own right, but yet she still followed her heart at the same time. So I love that balance. So it's my favorite book. Like, and I read it like I always read like bits and parts of it every year, just to kind of I love the movies as well. I just love it in general.
So these two things go together. You can't separate them, right? Books, films.
Yeah, no, I can't. In my brain, they're one and the same. I love them both, and I think that's why like a lot of people like who read my books will be like, I saw this as a movie. I think this would be better as a movie, or like I get that on every single one of the books I write, and I'm always like, okay, I get it. But I think that's just because in my brain, books and movies are so non are I always just see them together. But yeah, I think with Jane Eyre as well, as I love that she was a strong character, but that she also like she loved, and she was like a loving person, and she forgave and stuff like that. And I think with my own writing, when I write female characters, I want them to have that like strength, but have that like forgiving, loving side as well. I don't just want my characters to be like strong and badass and like I kind of love the softness and the forgiving side of like, I don't want my characters to lose that either. I like a best of both worlds.
So I know they are close to people around us. So you might associate yourself with Clara when reading, because she looks just like us, like modern girls, right?
Yeah, like that, like she's like she has I know she's in like a different world, but she has the same struggles, the same wanting to find herself, wanting to just experience the world, not wanting to be pegged down. Like she's the same as any of us. Like, she's not perfect, like she's stubborn and sarcastic, and like she makes a lot of mistakes throughout the
Yeah,
series, but
definitely.
like she's always like, but I think, and then sometimes people can be like, oh well, like she makes too many mistakes, like, but I mean, we humans make a mistake a day.
Yeah,
If we're lucky, it's a mistake a day.
it's
So
human nature. You can't do anything
human
about
nature.
it.
Yeah. And I mean, and sometimes in books I get fed up with people like going a whole book, they make one mistake and it's like, oh, I'm like, no, I want them to be tripping over their feet constantly. I want like, because it's true. Like I want people to be like, oh, she's so dumb, but then be like, oh, I would have done that too. Because
With no weak spots. Yeah, like these
yeah,
eternal assassins who cannot be killed, and they are
I know.
well shaped, right?
I know. Whereas I'm like, no, I'm like, Clara just looks like any one of us. I mean, she's just normal. She's normal, but she's also like half demon. So but like
Yeah, definitely.
but
Um,
fundamentally in her head, she's just young. She just doesn't want this responsibility that's been placed on her, and she just wants to find herself first. And then, and like as the story goes on, as she learns and as she grows, like we all do, and she ages, then it all starts to make sense. It's kind of like growing up. We see the world as very like linear growing up, but then when we get older, we see no, there's hills and bumps, and everything is chaotic. Nobody really knows what they're doing, but we do our best. And I kind of wanted her to be like that as we see her grow up as well, as that you see her kind of go from being like, oh, I thought the world was one way, but the world was actually this way. So yeah, I kind of,
that's visible from the narrative, I should say.
oh, good. Yeah, because I like that. It's as true to form as we can get in fiction, or at least I try to make it that way while still being entertaining.
That's really perfect. Speaking of literature and English literature in particular, what I like about English literature is that because of such people as Tolkien, Ursula Le
Mm,
Guin, and J.K. Rowling, all these people, they introduced us to
mm,
fantasy. So many people around the world were able to read fantasy novels because of these people, right? And
mm,
Clive Staples Lewis, he's my favorite probably out of
mm.
these people. So were you keen on these stories as a child?
I was so I grew up reading like the Hans Christian Andersen fairy tales. So like
Oh,
I
yeah. What's your favorite, by the way?
oh oh, do you know what? I don't know. I don't know. I couldn't pick, but like I was always like I loved how like they were so much darker than like the Disney version as well. Like as we get older, we like see that like they're so different.
Yeah.
I think like the White Queen, if I'm even getting the name right now, it's been
The
years since I've
Snow
even
Queen, right?
the Snow Queen, yeah. I
That
like I had
story freaked me out all the time. I don't know why.
but that was the great thing is that but I think they carried such great messages as well. Like I think fairy tales are so overlooked, and that's why I love them. I that's mostly I always think of my books as more like fairy tales because like that it's more the messages in them. But yeah, but Tolkien was like my biggest influence. I actually haven't read his books, but but what he created like when I was younger, my dad took me to see Lord of the Rings. I've told the story sometimes. I'd like too young to be honest to be seen an orc. But anyway, I saw it and it was like the best thing I'd ever seen. Because before that I'd been very like Disney obsessed and
Yeah,
like
same. That makes both of
oh
us, actually.
and like I was like if I could have like drank a Disney movie, I would have like I was obsessed with Disney, like Snow White. I think I broke the VHS. I watched it so many times. So and then when I saw Lord of the Rings, it was that film that made me be like, if somebody can create this, like somebody created this, like
Peter Jackson, you are the god, right?
I was
You are the
honestly,
god of cinema.
I was like, this is what I need to do. I was like, this is what I need to be creating. And like, I think I was about 7 at the time, but I remember sitting in the cinema, like at the edge of my seat, being like, I think it's because watching a Disney film, it's all cartoon,
Mm-hmm.
whereas like this was people, this was like actual people. So I was like,
Yeah.
people can do this, this is like a thing that we can do. So I was obsessed from that point, obsessed with fantasy. I was always creating things or rewriting stories, and yeah, I was sold from that point on. I was like, I don't care what I do in this life, I will be doing this, like in whatever form it takes. I was sold in that instant. So yeah, he's like my biggest influence ever. Like I'll always love his movies, and yeah, I haven't read the books yet because well, I've tried, but they're hard work.
What
They're
about the
hard work.
Hobbit trilogy? Did you enjoy the Hobbit trilogy as well, or as much as the Lord of the Rings?
Oh yeah, I love them both. Because I think I love the world he created, and I love that he wasn't like, it sounds so funny, but like he wasn't like an author. Like he didn't think, he thought of himself as like a linguistic like he invented the languages before he even created like anything else. So I think that's incredible, because I think it's like I think people can like create such amazing worlds, but the story can come after. I think there's so much that goes into writing and so much into creating that I think it's really amazing that he just wanted a place to put the languages he made. Like that's amazing to me. So
Yeah,
I'm
someone can actually come up with a language one day.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, like that
seriously?
like it's I mean the world he created was incredible, but I mean like to have created these languages to back it up, I mean that's world building to a whole new level, a whole
That
new
takes
level. I think
months, actually. As a
months,
linguist, I
yeah.
know I know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Oh really? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a linguist and an English teacher, so yeah, English is
Oh, that's
just
amazing.
it owns special place in my heart, like Shakespeare, all this stuff. I'm
Yeah.
into literature very much. Okay. What about like naughty and nice claws? This is the story I would like to talk about. First off, what a spicy title, I should say. Like I
Oh,
was like, why on earth did you come up with this title? Well, it's intriguing, but what's behind it?
I think it was well, first I just wanted like to be honest, like at the beginning I just wanted like a real catchy Christmas title,
Okay.
and because when I started writing it, because I just finished writing, like I'd spent 6 years working on the Crown to Traitor
Hmm.
trilogy. So, and I mean, like it was a lot of world building, a lot of work. And then when I finished it, I was like, I just need like a palate cleanser. I need like to write the cheesiest, funnest, romantic. Like I just wanted to write something so silly and like just so much fun. And yeah, and so I was like, I needed a title to go with that. And I felt like um because Mason or Klaus is like so kind of grumpy and harsh and like, and then Lila's so like nice and stuff like that. I kind of thought it was almost an embodiment of them. And then there's also like in the story there is like that the naughty or nice just gets lost, but it doesn't. It just gets moved, and they kind of have a blow up about that. So and I think it's also a play on like the situation that they're in. Like he brings her home and then she's just over
Yeah.
fake, and it's kind of like they kind of have to like play along. And I think they kind of have to act naughty or nice with each, like they're kind of always playing off each other, and their characters change so much, so it's kind of like a play on that as well. So it's kind of like a mix of different things. So I thought the title was very fitting, and plus it's just, and then that's just a fun title. It's just
Yeah.
it catches the attention.
Yeah, it's eye-catching, like a person walking through the shop and like, oh my God, so this title is intriguing. I definitely need to put it to my cart when surfing the internet, right?
Yeah,
It's going to be my
it's just
Christmas present.
absolutely, yeah. I just wanted it to be like something that people could just like snuggle into, enjoy, turn off from the real world, because like there is like a bit of a fantasy world, and it just gives them like a bit like a
Yeah,
good
special
Christmas
take
escape.
on the North Pole, right?
Yeah. It's like its own little village. Yule is its own little village that's hidden away from everywhere else. So yeah, I wanted that to be like, if we could all have our like own little Yule to escape to. So that's what
Yeah,
I wanted.
definitely. So
Yeah,
when things get hard, you just can step into North
yeah,
Pole and
yeah,
enjoy your time with Santa Claus, right? That was an
absolutely.
unusual take on Santa Claus, right? And his son was like, okay. He's like that hot, mysterious, and masculine guy, right? That's what I like
Out.
about the stories,
I
such
know.
stories. Some
I know.
people like such like masculine characters who like, I'm the king of the rock, so I'll
Mm.
save the day.
I
Some
mean, we all
readers
love it. Like, come on.
some readers they for some reason are bugged by this idea,
Mm.
but I was just like, finally I have found such a cozy story with a nice protagonist who's going like, I'm going to solve all your problems, just relax.
Exactly. Yeah, like it's what we want. Like, and I think as well, like Lila's there to solve his problems too. Like, I mean, without him, he oh God, he'd be even worse off with himself. So, she's like the ultimate distraction for him, which I think he needs, and I think it's what we all need, especially if people are grieving, because like that he is grieving,
Yeah,
and
because losing a parent is usually very difficult.
yeah. So I think having someone there to distract him, to take him away from that, is like is a great relief for him. So even though he is like the strong masculine, we see him break down a couple of times in the book, and lose his cool. He's like,
He's
no,
wearing a mask, right? A
yeah,
certain mask.
he's wearing a mask that we all do, and I think that's and I think it's nice that like she kind of breaks that down in him, because she's someone that he can uh rely on and stuff like that. So yeah, no, it's kind of, but oh yeah, but sure, we all love a good. I
Yeah.
think as well, if you're reading these types of books, like sometimes I kind of, when people like are like, oh, I didn't like that, or, that stereotype is there, and I'm like, yeah, but like, what did you expect when you picked up this book? I mean, come on, it's like people who read dark romance, and
Yeah.
then are like, I didn't like that it was dark, and I'm like, what are you doing in the genre? You know,
Swap the genre.
it's like people being like, I hate chocolate, but then eating like a full bowl, a big bar of it, and then being like, I hated chocolate. You're like, you bought the chocolate.
Oh,
You
like
ate
I hate
it.
Marvel, and then they go watching, I don't know, Avengers
Absolutely.
3, and like, what the hell are you doing in the
Yeah.
cinema, right?
I know. So I'm kind of like, any type of criticism I just take on the chin now. I think it's kind of entertaining. And I think there's always things you can learn from it, but sometimes I do think it's funny when people are like, I hated this about it. I'm like, yeah, but why did you buy the book then? Like what? Like, okay, but I think as well, people love to like not negotiate, what's the word, like banter, and like almost like people love to hate as much as they love to people love to
Praise,
hate, to
yeah.
hate to love, and yeah, it's something to like kind of almost give out about and be like, so I think nothing is bad. I think no criticism is bad, really. I think it's just I just think it's entertaining at this point. But but yeah, no, sometimes I am a bit like, because I see it with other books as well. People are like, I hated this book because it was like fantasy, and I'm like, the dagger and the princess on the cover didn't give it away, like, okay. But I think as well, like, people just love to give out about things. I mean, we're human. We all love to
Yeah.
have a good Wally, but yeah. But no, I love but yeah, I mean, come on, it's romance. And I mean, and the Naughty or Nice Clause is like such a hallmark, like, Christmas stereotype throw up on it. So I just love it. It's silly and something for people to enjoy. So yeah, I don't take it too seriously. Um
Yeah,
but
these
yeah.
stories are mostly invented, for people to lay back, especially if it's a Christmas time, right? So
Mm,
with a mug of chocolate, right?
yeah,
And
that's the
actually
yeah,
just to enjoy your time while preparing for
yeah,
Christmas. Nothing else.
exactly,
Just
yeah. Yeah,
way
exactly.
inspired by some classic Christmas Hollywood films, because while reading I found myself drawing parallels between some interesting Christmas stories,
Mm,
created by Hollywood. Maybe you have a favorite film.
mm. Yeah, there's actually like a couple of Easter eggs in the film. So like the street that I think Mason lives on is like 34th Street, which is like the film Miracle on
Hmm.
34th Street.
Yeah.
Kevin, the brother, is named after Kevin McAllister.
Yeah.
His sister Lou is Cindy Lou Who from The Grinch.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
of
just
course.
so like and so yeah, there's a couple of Easter eggs throughout the book that are like that, just from a few of my favorite Christmas films, because I was like, why not? Like, just throw them all in there. And sure, even well, the ginger cat Jones
Hmm.
is named after the cat from Alien. It's not a
Yeah.
Christmas film, but I love the
Yeah,
cat.
definitely not.
But I love the cat. I love the cat in Alien. I think he's such a character. So I was like, we need a ginger cat. So I was like, Jones is the perfect name. So yeah, I love doing that though. Some of my favorite films or books, I tend to like, I'll put in like a character's name or like a street name or just something. I love an Easter egg when I watch films. I love when other
Hmm.
like I love when other authors and like other like other people who like make movies and like put Easter eggs in films. I love that. So I do that in my own books, just to kind of little nudges here and there. But yeah, it's fun.
And also, I enjoyed the chemistry between the two characters. They are empathetic, they're trying to support each other in times of
Mm.
grief and difficulties, right? So, and some people, while I was reading the reviews, just to draw comparisons, right? How was my perception different? I found some people calling it a slow burn, right? Romance.
It is, yeah. It definitely would be. It definitely would be a slow burn. Yeah, yeah. But I think a lot of romances now are like very quick to like action,
Yeah.
you know? They're like 3 pages in, you're like, they're what? Um, but like for me, like when I'm writing, I always think um like spice wise, I'm always like, I kind of let the characters lead with their relationship and be like, okay, like, because I'm kind of like, okay, they're only at the like banter stage, and then they're kind of flirting, and then it gets more intimate as they kind of trust each other and learn
Mhm.
more about each other. Because that's always my favorite character development, is when people actually like, because it feels more genuine and it feels more like an actual relationship. But I mean, I love spicy books. I love dark romance. I love every type of romance that there is out there. I'll read any of it. It's very entertaining. But I think for me, writing, it feels more natural to do that. And this is my first romance book as well. And
Mhm.
like, hands off to like people who can write so much spice, because it's really difficult. It's really difficult. It's
Yeah.
like, they are masters in their own right, because I don't know how they can come up with all the scenarios and scenes and everything. I'm like, props to you. I'm like I couldn't. So yeah, I'm only easing my toe into these things now. But
They have to make it look natural, right? Not
yeah,
overdo things, right?
yeah, exactly. And it's really difficult to like. And there's different, like, as you said, like, this is my, like, the Naughty or Nice Clause is a slow burn. Like, it's like, I mean, I don't think they even kiss until like chapter 10 or something. Like, like, it's very gradual. Whereas, like, because I love the tension, I love the billing and we say billing and cooing, that way. Like, it's like I love that tension build. It will they, won't they? It's like my favorite thing when I'm reading. So I kind of wanted to give that, but yeah, no, it's but yeah, I think every author has their own way to do it. But I think now romance has become like it's there is a lot. The spice level has definitely gone up in like the last kind of
Yeah.
couple of years.
Yeah.
I think TikTok has something to do. I think book talk has something to do with that.
We have TikTok to blame for that, right?
I think maybe a little bit, you know. I mean, I love it, but you know, I think, but yeah, no, it's each, but like, sure, look, there's a book for everyone as well. So, but yeah, no, I think if I'm writing romances, they'll kind of always be a bit slow burns because those are my favorite things to read, favorite things to write. So I just kind of do me. I try to take in as much feedback as possible from people, but at the end of the day, I still have to write it. So, and write it like 50 times. So I kind of have to love it first.
Yeah, so actually, I was also thinking that this story would make a perfect Netflix show one day, right? So, what's your dream casting so far?
Oh God. Do you know, I was actually talking about this last night with somebody, and I actually I don't see like characters as actors really, because I see them as such individuals in my own head. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think I would like have to like be there to like see people get cast. I wouldn't be able to name people off the top of my head. Sometimes I take inspiration from like Pinterest, and like I'll be like, okay, like I kind of saw like Lila's kind of like almost a bit like Selena Gomez type of
Okay,
like
yeah,
with like
definitely.
curly hair and everything. And then I kind of saw Mason as this guy. I think his name is Christopher Mason.
Yeah,
He's a model.
yeah,
They both did the music video
yeah,
together, and I think I don't know why, but I thought that would be a good pairing. And then the story kind of evolved from that. Well, the story evolved from like different songs as well. But it's like sometimes when I see like a pairing together, I'm like, that's actually a good pairing. So then I kind of build characters off that. But it's still like, but in my head, there's still different details to them that I'm like, I don't know who I'd cast. I don't know who, but I mean, I'd take anyone though. I mean, if Netflix came knocking on my door, I'd be like, do what you want, be free, you know.
yeah. Pick anyone you
um,
like.
yeah, I think if it came to the characters, I'd be like, you can pick who you want. But if it came to like the actual story, I'd be like, I want this in it, and I want this in it. I
Like
don't want you to
sitting
change that.
through all the auditions, right? Like, okay.
Yeah, yeah. But I'd love that though. I think that would be an amazing thing to do. But yeah, no, I don't know. You never know. You never know. But yeah, it's nice though. I mean, I think it's like a dream of like every author to be like, oh, I'd love that. But you're like, we never
Yeah,
know what the future holds.
yeah. It usually comes out of the blue, right? Like the
Oh
director
yeah.
calling you, okay, so what would you think if I had a chance to actually adapt your story? Would you agree? Or man, yes, of course I would
Oh
agree.
yeah.
Who
I'd be like,
wouldn't?
I'd be like, I agree, but I want to see the contract first. I want to see what you're doing to my story. Because I think as well with books, like with readers, like I'm the same. I either read the book or watch the film. I try not to do both. Because it can ruin almost two of them for you because we see things or how we envision things or and then sometimes when they change things, you're like, how dare you do that? Like, you know, it's like it doesn't matter almost how good the film is or how good the series is. If it's not how you experienced it yourself, you're like, I don't
People
know. It's
usually
like, you
root
know,
for the original
yeah,
story, right?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, but I mean, oh, it'd be the biggest compliment ever. But yeah, fingers crossed. We never know what the future holds. We never know what the future holds. But yeah, I'm not even at that stage yet. I'm like, I'm just at the beginning stages.
Okay, and you mentioned that you rewrote some chapters like 50 times, right?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Like I always find it really funny if like somebody's like, oh, this felt like a first draft. I'm like, oh, it's like 50th. I'm like, you should have seen my first draft. I mean, my first draft would have had you crying. I mean, you hated the story now, you would have hated it then. But no, well, I'm a so like some authors like do like one draft and then like they build on that one draft. No, I rewrite the story from scratch a couple of times to like really because like even there's another book that I'm working on now and like that I'm rewriting it for the fourth time because if it doesn't feel right, then I don't like it. But I also write in scenes. I think that's why as well people say like, oh, it seems like a movie. It's because I write in very clear cut scenes, and then I kind of put it together. So it's kind of like, which is what they do at films. You know, they film a scene and then they put it together. So I think that's why that kind of overlaps with each other. But yeah, no, I love writing that way. But yeah, I'm a big rewriter, so I know that drives a lot of authors crazy. But I love how I draft works for me. So, but yeah, the originals are very, very different.
Yeah, and when you become an author, actually, you are no longer a stranger to the writing slump, right? So, do you
Oh,
have any personal tips on how to actually find your personal way out of this writing slump?
keep writing. Actually, keep writing. It's like it's the weirdest thing, but like for me, if I stop writing, it'll make me worse. Whereas like if you I just keep writing through it, or write something like just keep taking at it, and like you'll come back to it. Sometimes I find it can just be a block in a story, or like maybe a character isn't working the way it's supposed to, or maybe I find it's more to do with there's something wrong with the story than there's something wrong with you. Because sometimes I'll be like really stuck on a draft, but then when I start rewriting it, I'm like, it's because that person actually hates that person. That person doesn't love that person. That's why. So it's sometimes I find it's not to do with you, it's to do with actually what you're writing. So I find if you just keep working at it at whatever pace is good for you, then it'll resolve itself. But that's the only way I find that works. If I stopped writing entirely, I'd probably just turn into a ball of mush. I probably would just disintegrate. But yeah, no, it's definitely that'll be my biggest tip. Keep writing. Only way.
Okay, and what's your favorite place to write? I mean, the place that comforts you in a certain way.
Starbucks. Taking up
Yeah,
a
I
table.
learned it from your stories. Like people like, you keep going to Starbucks. Why?
Yeah.
Why? And like, well, that's why, because that's where my stories grow, right?
Yeah, exactly. It is true. It's like because I feel like, well, 90% of the time I am at my desk. And I think you can get just so stagnant and almost like it's like looking at something too close. Whereas when you actually step back from it, you can actually get some perspective. It takes the pressure off, and it brings a bit of the magic back into like that you're creating something. And it's a change of scenery, you know. It's something, and it takes the pressure off, makes it seem not so serious. Because like that, I mean, it's such an exposing thing that you're creating something to put out in the world. Like it's like writing a fourth book is very different to writing a first book. With the first book, you almost have this naivety of like how it's gonna go. With a fourth book, you're kind of like, I know how this, you know, there's good, there's bad, there's moments where you're gonna be happy, sad, you know, so when you're writing it changes. But I love Starbucks. I like to go there and take up a table because it's
What's
entertaining.
your favorite
And
coffee?
at the moment, I love iced caramel macchiatos with coconut milk.
Oh
I'm
my God. That's
very
pretty
nice.
nice. I once tried coffee with mint. Has never tried it
Oh.
before, and it has that exotic trace, when
Mm,
trying it, and it helps you to relax, So a nice one. My favorite is probably latte.
oh yeah, I do
Definitely.
love a latte. Yeah. Well, I usually drink. I usually would drink vanilla lattes either, but I'm lactose intolerant, so my order always gets very
I
long.
see.
Um, so it's always like with something because it's always intended. But yeah, and it's like a little treat for yourself as well, especially like if you're having a hard time or you're feeling a bit like down. You're like, I need a little sweet treat, and it makes you feel better. So yeah, I'm all for a bit of indulgence.
And one more question that I was really interested in is actually, I also spot on your website that there's standalone novel that is currently being proofread, right?
Mhm.
Stepmother, it's called Stepmother, right?
Yeah, Stepmother and Towerwood are novellas, and they're currently being revised. They're the first stories I ever wrote, and they were available, but but they were short stories, and now they're being turned into longer novellas, and they're like the they're the bridges for other books that are going to be in a hellish fairy tale. So like
Mm-hmm.
that, they kind of give you an insight into future stories that are going to be written. But yeah, no, because I love the stories, and they're more like character studies into these like classic characters that we
Mhm.
know. And yeah, we get to see them again, so I'm really excited. Like that Towerwood is like a modern Rapunzel, and Stepmother is the origin stories of
Lady
Cinderella's stepmother,
Tremaine, right? Yeah.
Lady Tremaine. But it's set in like, it's set in like, they're both set in like the human world of the hellish universe, but it's a different type of human world. Like it's not, there's still like magical elements to it and stuff like that. So yeah, no, but I'm really excited because they lead on to future books then. So yeah, that's, it's great. It's, but I can't wait for it to come out again. Because like that, they've new blurbs, new story, like they're a lot bigger, and yeah, it's more for people to enjoy.
And
Yeah.
why are these stories so hyped nowadays? Because many people, they appeal very much to reboots and reimaginings, you know, like how did all this play, how did all this thing about becoming vicious actually work? So
I
why
know.
do you think they are so popular nowadays?
I think it's like a comfort thing. I think it's like a bit of a like predictability almost, that like people can like, they have an idea of like the character already. They might have an idea of like where it came from. It's almost like a comfort. It's like reaching for your favorite blanket, or reaching for your favorite coffee. You know, it's like, it's something that you can just get into without like having to worry about something new. I know that sounds, it's like, even though it is something new, it's like something that you can relate to, especially like, and a lot of these stories a lot of us grew up with. Again, and no matter where you are in the world, a lot of these stories we all grew up with. So it's
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
it's something that anyone can reach for and almost have like a bit of like, oh, I love this story as a kid, I wonder what it's like as an adult, you know, like I wonder what they've done to it. I think well, like I started writing retelling, so they were the first ones I did, because I loved retellings. I That was like the first thing I ever wanted to do. Like, even when I was a little thing, I always wanted to like rework stories and stuff like that. So yeah, so I was always obsessed with turning the stories on their heads. So because like that, there's something nice about looking at familiar stories from another angle as well. So yeah, but I think they're definitely popular is because people like are almost reaching for things that kind of comfort them, and
Yeah.
like things. I definitely think that plays into it. Yeah.
Sometimes authors just don't explain why these people ended up being bad eventually, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
what
Yeah,
made them bad?
exactly. Like, and I I think every villain has a backstory. It's like, yeah, every, you know, and I think it's fascinating when you actually get to see what made them that way. And I think like in Stepmother, or in the one that I wrote, like the we get to see what led her here. And it's I don't want to give anything away, but it's like a twist on like Cinderella's own story. There's like a fairy godmother and stuff like that, and she has her own sad like backstory and stuff like that, and how she came from wealth and then it was all taken away, and she has to like learn to build herself.
Yeah,
And like that, she makes sacrifices for that. And I think it's like we don't get to see, exactly like you said, we don't get to see what makes them a villain. We just see them as the villain. But
yeah.
but I
We
mean,
never
what made,
ask ourselves a question, so why?
yeah, but I think seeing what made them that way is what, because I think everyone always worries, am I a good person? Am I a bad person? Like, am I a villain in someone else's story? I think that really plays into people. I think the morality of things is super important. But I love the idea of getting to see into the villain, because we don't know what went on then. We don't know what made them that way. So I think that's fascinating, and I think people are always fascinated by that as well. I think morality is like, will always fascinate people. But yeah, and it's fun to write. Who doesn't like, it's fun to write a villain as well.
Definitely, it's fun. It's a fun, right?
Absolutely, yeah. It's because like with the villain, there's almost like no limit. Like
Yeah,
you can have them, like, and people, and sometimes like I found as well, like people loved Lucifer in my series, and I'm like, and he's the inherent bad guy, like he is the bad guy. So,
yeah,
but yes, and yet the person who's meant to be good in my book, people hated. But it's like they're both doing what they feel is right, but from different perspectives. It's it's who people feel that person is more justified. So I find that fascinating. Yes, and it's fun to write. I do love a villain.
Yeah, I also learned that you like creating playlists when working on a new novel, right? So I checked them out and they're quite nice. And they also set a certain tune. I suppose
Mm.
I might guess why you have chosen these particular tunes. And how do
Mm.
you usually create these playlists? Where
It's
does
usually
your
like
inspiration come from?
it's usually like I usually have like a Spotify playlist for each book. It's like but it usually builds on one song will inspire a story. So like for the Naughty or Nice Clause, it was um what's that song? Dress by Taylor Swift.
Hmm.
That was the first the scene where Mason gives her the dress was actually the very first thing that came into my mind. And then I built the story around
Ah,
that. And then for uh for Crown a Traitor it was I can't even remember that far back, but I remember I'd stopped writing the series for a while, and then it was I think it was like Billie Eilish's all the bad girls go to hell, all
hmm.
the bad guys go to hell, or bad girls go to hell. It was like that song, and then um there was a Halsey song as well that like I built around, and those I found that like those songs, even if they don't really make sense to like the outside, I found that they put me into a scene. Yeah, so I always find that different. I find that music is what like gives me the environment for the world the most. So yeah, I'm always listening to music when I wake up. I listen to music. I listen to music doing everything. So it's always my biggest inspiration because it's what gives me the biggest ideas as well. But yeah, that's fun. And I just love music as well. So yeah.
Okay, and I also learned about your book club and the name, the title is far from mediocre actually, because it's like rambunctious raccoon reader, something like that.
Rambunctious raccoons.
Yeah.
It's a
So
reader
how did
group.
you come up with such a mouthful name? And could you tell a little bit about this club?
Oh, it's just a reading group. Anyone can join. Anyone can join. It's just for like if like a group of people are reading my books at the same time, then they can join and they can talk about it without worrying about spoiling it. Um, like that. It's and like that. I put
So it's
like little
spoiler free, right? Spoiler friendly.
yeah. So it's if you're like it's if you're going to it's if say a group of people are reading it at the same time, they can talk about it. Whereas like I find if people talk about it on Instagram, they're kind of like, oh, I wanted to say this, but I didn't want to put spoilers. Whereas like in the reader group, everyone's read it, so you don't have to worry about spoilers.
Yeah.
And like that, I just use it to like put like little updates in it, like you get little exclusives and stuff like that. So I just put it in there. And the rambunctious raccoon came from when I started Instagram. I still do it now and again. I did like an everyday how do you feel poll, and it would be like how do you feel today, like a cranky queen or a rambunctious raccoon. Like it's kind of like do you feel good or do you feel bad today? Like it was kind
Yeah.
of like a daily check-in on my Instagram, and people loved the rambunctious raccoon. So then when I had to pick a reader group name, I was just like rambunctious raccoons because I mean it's just kind of like something exciting, something interesting, and like I don't know, I just feel like it's very an embodiment of because people always call like raccoons like trash pandas, and I was like I feel like I'm a bit of a trash panda. Like
Sorting out trash.
I just feel like I just feel like I just sit around in my comfy clothes and root through terrible drafts, and yeah, I just feel like it's very soothing. But excited about it at the same time. So I felt like Rambunctious Raccoon is a good title. But yeah. And plus it's always I always find it really hard to name those things. Like I'm always just like um so yeah, no. And then I had an artist on Instagram do up like the little logo for it. So yeah, but anyone can join it. Like
Yeah.
it's open to everyone, but it's so funny. It's just something silly. But yeah, no. Yeah, it's just a fun place for like people who read my books that they can go. It's a
Like a
very
fan
small
base, right?
yeah, it's a place where and like that there's different updates and stuff like that, like and you get like exclusives to things and stuff. So it's like a behind the scenes more so than like Instagram stuff like that. Like it's just more of a behind the scenes access because like that people kind of like that stuff. So yeah, that's good.
Yeah, as an Instagram user, do you find that nowadays Instagram like puts a lot of pressure on people, like in terms of appearance, some daily life changes, right? Like when
Mm.
posting all these beautiful pictures, we know that these are like half true, right? No
Oh
one
yeah,
is going to
100%.
post oneself like waking up in the morning looking grumpy.
I know, yeah. I'm like, some people wake up beautiful. I'm like, I do not wake up like that. With a beautiful yawn. I'm like, no. Um, well, like for my content, I batch make my reels, so like that. Like that, I make a couple on a like a Saturday or Sunday. I'll make loads, and I just kind of put them up. It's kind of the easiest way to do it. So like that, it's like that. There's like a lot of work that you have to do for not a lot of work, but like you have to put kind of some effort in, that way. But yeah, but I feel like there's definitely like I feel like the algorithm has like changed so much since I joined. Like I've been on it. This is my 4th year on it now, and I think it's changed so much. Like I do actually prefer when it was just grid, like just grid posts. The videos have changed it a lot, and it's very unpredictable now. Um, but I feel like I started there, and I feel like that's where like I released my first book, and that's where I got my first readers, and like seeing the first person post about my first book, like it was like it'll always be kind of like my writing home, because that's where people gave me my first chance. Like that's where people gave me a chance to actually put my books out there. And to this day, like I still have like a kind of like good core group of people that like always like are really supportive and stuff like that. So I find that amazing. So yeah, I think it's like there's definitely goods, there's definitely bads, but I think it's like who you follow and who's around you, even on those
Exactly.
apps,
So
is
yeah.
is super, super important.
So
Yeah,
people
definitely.
you surround you with, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's definitely like the community that you're surrounded with will make it a good experience or a rough experience. But yeah, no, it's definitely there's definitely goods and bads of it, but like that it's yeah, it's an experience. But I think everything in moderation as well.
Yeah, and speaking of naughty or nice clause, so November is a special month for you, right? As it is
Yeah,
finally getting its physical copy, right?
I know. I can't wait for it to come
Yeah,
out.
I
I
can
have
see loads of them at the background.
Yeah, there's loads of them. There's loads. They're for like that, because on the release day on the 8th of November, like I do signed copies on my website, so I order them way in advance, so that way they're prepped and ready, and then they go out on the day. So yeah, it's my favorite part of release day, is getting to sign all the copies and getting to send them. That's like my favorite part of releasing a book, is because I think when you get to sign a copy, it's so personal. Like it's like I get to give the book a home. It's like I
Yeah.
get to give my book a new home. So it's really nice. But yeah, no, it's release
And it's
month is
always
always
a
a
nice touch, when opening a book and seeing some really nice words from the author. It's
mm,
so it boosts your energy and emotions,
yeah.
It's really
It's
nice.
it's so nice to like bridge the gap between like it's so nice to like be a part of like that experience as well. So yeah, no, I really enjoy it. It's my favorite part. Yeah, I can't wait for it to finally be out. I've literally been promoting it for a year now. I've been in Christmas for a year, and so I'm looking forward to it actually coming out.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And one more question on your upcoming book. So, if
Mm.
you had an opportunity to describe your book, so what 5 words would you use to describe it? And after, okay, right after your phrases, probably this book will be sold out. What would you say so that people will, okay, I really need to get this book?
Oh wow. I would say it's fantasy, romance, enemies to lovers, fake fiance, and
And why should people read it in the first place?
oh, just if you want something cozy and fun and cheesy, and you just don't want to have to think about the real world, and you just want to put on some fluffy socks and snuggle up and just enjoy. That's it. It's like, yeah, grabbing your favorite anything. It's just a good comfort to have. Yeah, I'd be like, if you just want something comfy, pick it up. Um, yeah, something comfy and romantic, and make your heart feel good. It's a make your heart feel good type of book.
Yeah, that
Um,
sounds like a nice motto, right?
yeah, and make your heart feel good. Yeah, that's the thing. But yeah, no, I definitely yeah, if you just want my main thing was like when I was writing, it was like I just want people to just enjoy it and not have to think about anything, and just feel super happy and cozy and Christmassy. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. And as a fantasy writer, so nowadays there are so many authors. So the world of fantasy is actually flooded with them, like with
Mm,
the millions of copies being sold around the world. So if a
I know.
person would like to embark on this fantasy writing journey, so what advice would you give? So how to, I would say, psychologically prepare yourself for the publishing process, the writing process, and the feedback, because not all people are as nice as we think, right? So,
No. Um, my first thing would be like, don't think about how saturated the market is, because there's 7 billion people in this world. People will read your book.
yeah,
Uh, two, and like that. I mean, romance is $1 billion industry. Fantasy is the same. There's always going to be a want for it. There's always going to be there's always going to be a niche for you. If you look at any author, there's always going to be like a little corner somewhere for you. Publishing process. If you're self-publishing, it's a business. It's so much. It is a lot of work, but just take it one step at a time. Traditional publishing, it's a long process. Take your time. It's the same advice either way. Take your time, enjoy it, try not to pull your hair out. And for what was the last question?
on the feedback, right? The
Oh,
comments
feedback.
coming in.
Yeah, don't read your reviews. I don't read them. Don't read them. Just don't. It's very hard not to, and you will see some. It's inevitable. But don't read them. I don't read them as much as I can. I don't read them unless they like literally pop up on my screen. I will avoid them. I appreciate every single one. They're like gold dust to indie authors, and I am amazed by how much detail people put into their reviews. Like it means the work. Like every time I get one, even if I get a bad review, I'm almost like excited, because I'm like, that person took that time to actually write that review. Like even if they hated it, I'm like, thank you. I appreciate every single one of them, and that's not even a lie. Sometimes I find the 2-star, 1-star reviews quite entertaining, to be honest. But for the most part, I do avoid them because they're not good for the soul, because they just make you question things or doubt things, and it's already out, it's done. You can't do anything now, so you just
You
have to
might
take a
fall
step
in
back.
despair, right?
You do, it hurts. It does hurt. We're human. It's but I do think avoid the spaces where you could see those things as much as possible. Would be my biggest advice. Don't read them. I know a lot of authors are like, no, I have to read them. I'm like, no, 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 no. You're hurting
It's
yourself.
up to you.
Yeah, I'm like, do you want to put your hand in the fire? No. So step back. But you do. But again, I'm on the 4th book now. You get a thick skin. It's kind of like, okay, thank you, moving on. It takes time. My first book, devastated, but like, oh my god, I'm a horrible person, I should never write another book again. 4th book, I'm like, thank you for writing the review, I love the 1-star, thank you. Yeah, I'm just appreciated if they bought it. I'm like, you bought it, you hid it, thank you. But yeah, no, that would be my biggest advice. Take your time, try not to think big picture, just enjoy the writing, enjoy the process, and yeah, you'll find your feet. Yeah. But yeah, because I mean, if you look at any job is saturated. Like if somebody was like, I want to be an architect, but there's so many architects, you're like, still gonna be really
Exactly.
hard to
It's
beat,
hard to think outside the box, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, any job. I mean, how many lawyers are there in the world, or how many policemen, or how many like teachers?
Yeah.
You wouldn't be a teacher. You wouldn't be like, I'm not going to be a teacher because there's so many teachers. Like, there's enough people to
That's
educate.
not gonna work
Yeah, it's not
if
going to
your
work.
mindset works like that.
Yeah, no, you just have to throw yourself into it and just enjoy it, and hope. Hope is a good thing.
Oh, Kate, you're such a positive person. Thank you very much for a very thoughtful conversation, and congratulations on your upcoming book. I wish it a huge success. I hope that Christmas boxes will arrive on time, and like
Oh my
people
god, I
open
hope
it.
so
Oh
too.
my god, I already love this book without even reading it.
Oh, I know, but it's so much fun. It's all part of the process. But yeah, no, thank you so much. It's been so nice talking to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I was really pleased to talk to you, and thank you very much for accepting the offer. I wish you luck in every upcoming novel that you make your mind on writing sooner or later.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I hope your podcast goes really well as well. Like, it's been great fun.
Thank you very much. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe, review, and share the podcast with your friends. Thanks very much for listening.